Good morning, good afternoon. It's now a minute past noon, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to spring. Hopefully it's an auspicious spring that's a harbinger of good health and good spirits for everyone, and hopefully vaccination against the COVID in all of our near future, those of you who have not yet obtained it. More power to you. I hope that you can find a place to get the vaccination soon. This is Science Sunday, and we are broadcasting live from the DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church. We thank this church for its ongoing and substantial support, technical and practical support, as well as the enthusiastic welcome that it has given Science Sunday for these past 7 or 8 years. And Mike Winter's here with us. He's in the audience, but the rest of you who are watching live and who are watching this after the live broadcast, we welcome you. We wish you were here, and we look forward to the day when we can all be together again. So without further ado, welcome to spring, welcome to the broadcast. Today we have a guest speaker, somebody who has talked to us before about various and sundry scientific topics. I'm sure he'll cover that in just a minute. But he's also someone very dear to my heart, dear enough that in fact he happens to be my husband. And so without further ado, I introduce to you David Clark to talk to you about the mysterious concept of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. So, Dave, take it away.
Thank you, Scott.
I'll be monitoring online for any questions or comments. So.
Well, hello and welcome. Sorry that we can't all be together, that we have to do this online, but it's something interesting to try. This is I think the second online talk that I've done. I've done, as Scott said, a couple talks before, some of my other hobbies. Today we're going to be talking about cryptocurrency. Now, I have to give you a little bit of forewarning. I may use the term cryptocurrency and Bitcoin interchangeably during this conversation. There's a couple terms that I'm going to have to front load you with, one of which is blockchain, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and there's several different cryptocurrencies, and we will get into those. But my apologies if I use Bitcoin and cryptocurrency interchangeably, and you'll see what I mean. I think on slide 2, maybe it's slide 3.
Is Bitcoin sort of the 800-pound gorilla of?
Bitcoin is the big one. Yeah. That's by far the most well-known cryptocurrency is Bitcoin. So some of my hobbies, when I was younger, there were certain things in my life that happened, that I saw, that I got to interact with, and I just had to know everything about them, from big picture down to with computers, the individual circuit pathway level. How are ones and zeros, transmitted? How does a processor work? What makes a monitor display a certain color, right? I just had to know everything about it. How was a mouse invented? I just had to know everything. I just became obsessed about it. One of them was computers. Computers was the first obsession of mine, that I just had to know everything about it. And I was pretty young. I was probably 8 or 10 when that started. Second one was cars. I just had to know everything that there was to know about cars. And I even gave a talk specifically about automotive fluids, not just about cars, but specifically automotive fluids. And I could have filled up a couple more hours talking just about automotive fluids.
And it got rave reviews, I must say. The level of interest in your talk about automotive fluids was really surprising. I mean, extraordinarily gratifying.
Yeah, I got some emails about that and asked some folks from the audience asked questions. And that was cool. I thought that was great. Well, cryptocurrency. This is the symbol for Ethereum. This is another well-known cryptocurrency. This was another one, is another one that I just had to know everything about it. How is it made? What is a blockchain? Why is it so secure? Why does it have so much power? What is a hash? You know, how do people trade this? Why does it have value? I had to know all of these things. And I became obsessed with this for a couple of years. And the other one was the other talk that I gave, ants. Had to know all about ants. Ants are cool. My ants are coming out of hibernation this week, in case anyone is wondering.
You should have like a live webcam, like Dave's ants, you know, like they do for
Ant cam.
eagles and stuff. I noticed one of your other obsessions is not here, banana bread.
Oh, that's right. Banana bread.
Making the world's best banana bread.
The secret there is to make vanilla sugar ahead of time. Don't use vanilla in your banana bread, is to put a vanilla bean in sugar, seal it for a month, and then just use that, and you end up with sweet vanilla sugar. That's the secret. So let's start talking a little bit about blockchain. What is a blockchain? Blockchain is a technology. Blockchain, here's a quote, blockchain is merely the first Bitcoin is the first mainstream manifestation of the potential of blockchain technology. And I think that's true. Blockchain has a lot of potential because it is so secure. It takes so much effort to change it, to think. If you think of it like a ledger, that in order to change a ledger, like an actual piece of paper, it's not that difficult. But when you want to change a blockchain, something that happened several days or years ago, that the compute power necessary to do that would exceed the compute power of the planet in the time left that the universe has until the eventual entropy heat death.
Oh, that's gloomy.
If you wanted to change one of the original Bitcoin records in the blockchain to say, no, I actually got those 25 Bitcoin, and you had all the compute power on the entire planet, the universe would end before you could do it.
So you're saying it's secure from tampering?
It's pretty darn secure.
Okay.
But let's start about what is money. So it used to be that, we would use salt as money. Is he worth this salt? We get our term salary from that. We used to use gold, teeth. There's a particular tribe that uses wheels.
Yeah, big stone wheels.
Yeah, as currency, and whoever has the biggest wheel is the
big wheel.
Right, is the big wheel, is the richest person in the land. We use paper money as representations, right? I would go to the government, give them my gold, and they would say, your gold is worth $10, and they would give me a piece of paper that says 10. And that was a representation of $10 worth of gold that the government had. Well, many years ago, decades ago, we broke from that and went with fiat currency, which is this money, this piece of paper has value because the government says so. It's backed by the government itself. And so the money isn't backed by anything that we have to literally mine out of the ground, like gold or silver, or grow ourselves like teeth. But it can be exchanged. That's one of the primary functions of money. It has to be a unit of exchange. I have to be able to use it, to trade it, to get something else. It has to be transferable. It also has to hold its value in some way. Our money holds value not because it's linked to gold, but because our government is strong and doesn't print extra money whenever they want to, right? Because if they did, it would devalue our money because more money would be in supply. So our money stays pretty stable. And it has to be a unit of account. 1, 5, 10, 20, right? It can't be 1 is actually 12 today, but 11 tomorrow, but 126 the next day. That doesn't make any sense. That if it's not going to hold its value, if it's going to be that volatile, then it's not really useful as a currency.
Well, unit of account also implies that it's countable. So instead of, it used to be that currencies, if I remember correctly, were given their value based on their weight. When coinage was often used,
Sure.
it was. It's always about something
Ounces
measurable.
of gold.
Right, an ounce of gold or a little bit of silver. And so the idea of the unit of account, I believe, has to do with something that you can translate into a numeric record of the value of the exchange or the value of your
And it has to be
account.
consistent.
Yeah,
Because if 1 means 2 tomorrow, then
yeah, and that's
then
where
all of your books are off.
that
right.
kind of ties into the store of value idea
Right.
too.
So that's what money is. Well, what is a blockchain? A blockchain is something that you cannot separate blockchain from cryptocurrency right now. The currency is kept just like in a bank. It's kept on a ledger. A block is a page. This is a block. A blockchain is a notebook, like this. These happen to be my math notes, and my notes for the talk. That this could be, if it were encrypted, a blockchain. You could think of it like a very secure notebook. It's a chain because, do you see that number up at the very top, the 0x43A5?
Maybe you can zoom in on
cetera.
this slide here for a second.
Yeah, if you can zoom in on the slide, you can see that there's a number at the top. Well, that in Bitcoin, that number actually represents the value of the block or the page that came before it. And so you have a string of blocks that are very secure because each one is encrypted, and you can't alter the previous one because it's called a hash, and I'll actually show you what a hash is in just a moment. There's a particular function called a hash where you essentially sum up all the data and put it in a number. And that number is included in the next block, so on the next page.
It's like a cryptographic summary of the contents of that page, right?
Right. In fact, sometimes they're actually called signatures. Files can have file signatures that are of various hashes. There's MD5, there's SHA-256. Bitcoin uses SHA-256, and I'm actually going to show you how SHA-256 is done in real time. And it's frightening. A hash brings into a concept of proof of work. Proof of work means that you cannot know the outcome ahead of time without doing the actual work it takes to get there. You would think that you'd be able to intuit, or computers would be able to pretty much guess anything, right? If they have enough information, they can probably guess anything. No. There are algorithms that require you to go through the whole set of algorithms to prove that you did it in order to get the correct outcome, and that is the proof of work. And I have a whole slide about that. So what is a cryptocurrency? Cryptocurrency is, that's Bitcoin, the big one, right in the center. There's our Ethereum. There's, that looks like Litecoin over there. There's Dogecoin. I don't even know what that one is.
The L is the Litecoin and the D is the Dogecoin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it Dogecoin, maybe, going back to Italian aristocracy or something?
No, it's actually named after a dog.
That's pretty fun.
So it's, they have some pretty funny names. I'm actually partial to one that isn't up here called Monero. Monero introduces a special feature, which I'll talk about in about 3 words
Well,
here.
how many different cryptocurrencies are there? I mean, you show 5 here, and you said there's another one. Is there like 7 or 10?
Right now, on cryptocurrency exchanges, of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges where you can exchange one for another, there's about 300
Wow.
different cryptocurrencies. Some of which, like Bitcoin right now, one Bitcoin is worth about 60,000 US dollars, whereas some are fractional penny. They just don't have a lot of value. So a blockchain has to have several properties, one of which is that it has to be cryptographic.
Can you say, are there physical bitcoins or somewhere, stored somewhere that everyone has?
No.
They're not like coins in a bank.
Representations, when you see the pictures of bitcoins,
Can
Correct.
you
I don't know if people can hear my questions.
yeah, repeat the
Sorry.
question. So our audience.
Mike, our audience asked, are there physical bitcoins somewhere? I have pictures of them, right? Where are they? They don't actually exist. I can't bring in a physical bitcoin. It's a piece of software. It's actually a number, or it's a letter, and
It's like passing around a JPEG of a cute cat, right? The JPEG
A picture.
exists as
ones and zeros in a computer
it-
somewhere.
yeah. The JPEG of a cute kitten is just data, and it's data configured in a special way that we interpret as an image of a kitten.
Right.
Well, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies can be passed around as jumbles of data that, with the proper interpretation, can be recognized as a piece of cryptocurrency.
Right. So that brings me to my first property, is it has to be peer-to-peer. Peer-to-peer means that if I have a copy of the ledger, of the blockchain, then you have a copy of it as well. Anyone can have a copy of this. It is open to the public. There are very, very few cryptocurrencies that are not completely open.
So everybody can have a picture of the kitten.
Right. Everyone can have their own picture of the cat and can use that picture to verify that my picture is the same picture, that we are looking at the same data. It has to be verifiable. So there have to be encryption algorithms. There have to be, like I said, proof of work behind it. And there has to be the ability to deny bad actors. So in the block, or the ledger, there has to be a way to say, I want to spend $100.
Wait, the block is the ledger, right? I'm not sure I picked up on that earlier.
Sorry. So the block is the page, is the ledger, right?
Of who's owned it, from that kind of thing?
Right, of who's owned that coin before.
Or a fraction of it,
Or
perhaps.
a fraction of a coin,
Okay.
right? Whereas a blockchain is a notebook, is a series of ledgers, like a statement of account for all the years of a company.
Okay, so a Bitcoin contains the ledger for that Bitcoin or for all Bitcoins?
No, the blockchain
Okay,
is the ledger.
it's confusing, that's why.
The
yeah.
blockchain is the record of where that Bitcoin has been.
That one Bitcoin,
Correct.
okay.
But all Bitcoins are in the same ledger. You know, it's not like each Bitcoin gets its own blockchain.
Oh, that's what I was at. So there is a blockchain that comprises the information about all Bitcoins everywhere.
Yes,
I see.
Correct.
Okay, so it's not like one Bitcoin corresponds to one
blockchain.
notebook.
No.
It's the notebook of all
Of
Bitcoins.
all the Bitcoins.
I see. Okay.
Everywhere. All the Bitcoins in existence, even ones that are being created right now.
Ones that are lost.
And correct, and ones that are lost are all on the ledger. And we'll go into how they can be lost. Another property is that there has to be consensus. Just like the picture of the cat. We have to agree that this picture and this picture are in fact the same picture. Otherwise, our statements of account are different. So the blockchain ceases to be secure if we disagree about it. So there has to be a way to arbitrate, no, that's not the correct calculation. This is the correct calculation, which uses algorithms. Okay. Now let's, I'm going to try not to get too technical. I'm going to introduce the term public key, private key. So there's a bunch of fancy math that says I can generate a random or pseudo-random series of characters, happen to be, say, 256 bits. A bit is a 1 or a 0. So 256 ones or zeros, and that is my private key. I can then use a particular algorithm to generate a public key that's different, but they can verify each other using that algorithm. So if I have my private key that I keep secret and that I don't tell anyone about, but I use an algorithm to represent this private key, I can then give it to everybody. Everyone can then have that key, but they cannot figure out my private key. No matter how hard they tried, with all the compute resources on the planet, it would be exceptionally difficult to figure out what my private key is.
Let me try an analogy, see if it makes sense to you. I don't know much about this technology, so maybe my analogy is just bad.
Okay.
Think about a key in a lock, like a padlock. Is it appropriate to say that you can give the lock? You've got the combination. You've got the key and the padlock. You can give the padlock to as many people as you want, and only you can unlock them with your private key. But you can share the lock with anybody so that they can put it on some message, email they send, or whatever. They can lock it such that only you can unlock it.
Yes. Yeah, that's essentially true. You can use my public key to lock a message that only I can decrypt, because only my private key decrypts it.
Okay.
So that's public, private key encryption. You get the public part, I keep the private part. Then we can switch. You give me your public so that I can encrypt a message just to you. And that way we have dual authentication. We have total authentication that we are speaking to each other, because we only have our own private keys, and we gave each other our public keys.
No questions about this online, so you're doing a great job of explaining it.
So the blockchain must also be able to be copied. There are millions of copies of the Bitcoin blockchain all over the world, and they're all identical. They're all the statement of account for all the Bitcoins everywhere.
It must be growing as people transact things.
It gets huge, absolutely enormous.
Are we talking like megabytes?
We are talking tens of gigabytes.
Wow.
Soon to be terabytes, possibly. And
Every time there's a change, every time someone purchases or sells a Bitcoin, there's another addition, another block added to the blockchain.
Yeah, you'll have to repeat that.
so, right, so our audience said, so every time that someone makes a transaction or exchanges their coin, gives someone their coin or receives a coin, that adds a page to the blockchain. Well, it does kind of work like that. It adds a line to a block that must then be proven through what's called mining. And I'm getting a little ahead of myself here.
Okay.
But
Mike does that all the time. He just leaps ahead.
Leaps right ahead.
Yeah.
So there's computers out there that are doing the proof of work to verify that Mike giving me 1 Bitcoin, thanks Mike, did actually happen. He actually did have 1 Bitcoin to give, and that my address, my number, my account,
Your private key.
my my public key.
Yeah, he has access to your public key to
Right.
give you a Bitcoin. But
Right.
your private key unlocks it.
Right.
Yeah.
Private keys are held in what are called wallets. That's pretty intuitive, I think.
Not a keychain.
Well, I guess you could think of it as a keychain, but they're actually called wallets. You can have multiple accounts, multiple Bitcoins in a wallet, all sort of in the same program. Wallets are programs; they are not physical. There are physical wallets out there, but they just plug into a computer and run a program. They're just ways to keep your Bitcoin safe, so that you can actually take the data, the private key, to spend your coins and put them physically in a safe somewhere.
It's like a USB stick.
Right.
Right.
They are actually USB devices, most of them. I actually print mine out with the little QR code on it, and then I just scan it with my phone. If I want to spend the coin, I just scan it with my phone, and then my phone transmits the information to my computer and says, okay, it's time to spend this coin. And then I just put the pieces of paper with the little QR code in the safe. So blockchains are how crypto is tracked. There is no other way that cryptocurrencies are tracked right now other than on a blockchain. This is completely different than anything else that we have seen as far as currency before. There's never been an encrypted currency before Bitcoin. Bitcoin was the first. We had security in our money, right? If I have $10 in my pocket, I happen to have $20 in my pocket right now. I can look through it and I can see the water image, the watermark right there, the little USA 20, the little magnetic strip. I can feel the paper. I can see the color change ink, right? I can verify that, yep, this is a real US $20 bill. Well, there's nothing cryptographic about it. These are just printed. And the government can make more or destroy them. In fact, in money, there's not fake money, but there's money that isn't tangible, that isn't real in our economy. It's called M2. This, right here, this $20 bill is M1. You can feel it. It is a piece of paper. It is printed. It is real. M2 is your direct deposit from your company that goes into your bank account. Your company doesn't physically hand you your salary twice a month or whatever, right, in dollar bills. They just transfer it to you from one bank to another. That's M2. That's money on a ledger somewhere where security has been established by a government or by government regulation that says you can't fake this. You can't just say that you're sending $1 million to somebody. You have to actually have a statement of account that says this account has $1 million, and then you can send it. You can think of that as a type of blockchain, but it's not encrypted. There's no double verification. There's no proof of work. Not everyone has a copy of everyone else's bank statement.
You can't go
Right.
into a bank and say, give me my dollars. Right. I mean, they could just
Right.
hand you
Exactly.
any old dollars.
Right, just give you any dollar, right? Just the one in the drawer. Well, this $20 bill has a serial number on it. It's right there. I know that we can't zoom in, but as we know, dollar bills have serial numbers that uniquely identify this piece of paper. Each Bitcoin is the same way. Each Bitcoin is uniquely identified on the chain, and you can verify it all the way back, and the blockchain is public. In fact, you can go to I think it's just blockchain.com, and you can just make up some Bitcoin address and see how much money is in it. Or if you send me money, I now know your Bitcoin address.
The public one.
The public one, because you sent me money. So I can go to blockchain.com and look up how many Bitcoins you have in your account. The reason why it makes it private, why cryptocurrency is so private, is because I don't have to know who Mike is in order to receive money from him. I can receive it from anyone. He can even use a whole series of accounts. There are literally something like 80 septillion possible Bitcoin accounts or something like that. It's just this huge number of possible accounts. And so he can set up a program that literally runs, if he wants to give me 1 Bitcoin, he can run through 1,000 accounts, that 1 Bitcoin, splitting it apart 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 times, confusing the heck out of anyone who would want to look at it, and then bring them all back together, or not, and just have them trickle in over the course of a couple days, such that over the course of a couple days, I get 1 Bitcoin. There are cryptocurrency launderers, or crypto washers, or coin washers, that do exactly that. If I want to buy a Bitcoin, and I will get into this in the how to use Bitcoin, you can go to blockchain, or not blockchain, you can go to Coinbase, for example, or Circle. Those are coin exchanges where you can go, you have to prove who you are. You can't just say, give me 1 Bitcoin. You have to, these are quote, real exchanges where you have to prove who you are, send them your driver's license, address, all that, prove exactly who you are. And then they will allow you to take a credit card or use a bank transfer or wire transfer to send them money. And in exchange, they will guarantee you a certain number of coins that you can spend on the blockchain. So why is this magic? What gives this value? Blockchains and cryptocurrencies are completely inseparable because of what's called the proof of work. And I mentioned that before. The proof of work says that this statement of account must be correct because someone out there, we call them miners, did the work, found the correct key to verify it, and was rewarded. That is the purpose of mining on the blockchain. This is why video cards are actually in very short supply. If you want to build a computer right now, and you are on the market for a new video card, you will not be able to find one because video cards are being used for blockchain mining and verification. They operate much, much faster than a CPU, like an Intel or an AMD CPU. Video cards, the the very structure of them and how they compute the same thing over and over. You know, they use polygons and you know, to map out a surface. It happens to be that the algorithms that make blockchain technology verifiable, like SHA-256, which I'm going to show you a handwritten example of, work very well on video cards.
So video cards do a lot of the almost identical sort of calculation on slightly different numbers, and that's how they create different colors on your screen for each pixel.
Exactly.
Well, that same algorithmic approach to doing you know, millions or billions of very similar calculations rapidly
Right.
lends them to being used for what's called cryptocurrency mining, right?
So this is the proof of work for one Bitcoin hash.
You might want to zoom in on this slide as,
right,
as
we're
Dave
gonna-
talks through it here.
We're going to go through
Do you need,
just
sorry, do you need the audio played on this slide as well? Or are you just-
yes, sorry.
Okay.
We will need the audio for this. If this is thumbs up, thumbs down, can I get audio?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. So this is just one.
To do one round of the SHA-256, we start with 8 inputs, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. For the first round, these are constants provided by the MSA, no joke. So our first step is going to be convert these to binary, which is straightforward but a little tedious. So we'll start with ABC. 6 is 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 6, 0, 1, 1, 0, 6, 0, 1. Now for the first operation, we're going to compute the majority function on A, B, and C. What that means is simply we look at each of the 3 bits and see are there more zeros or ones. 0, 1, 0 is more zeros. 1, 0, 0, more zeros. 1, 1, 1, ones win. 0, 1, 1, ones win. 1, 1, oh, so 0, 1. And what this does is it mixes up A, B, and C in a non-linear way, which makes it harder to break the hash function. Now we'll convert this back to decimal. 0, 0, 1, 1 is 3, 7.
The timer at the bottom of this video is how much real time is elapsed.
So we're going to take A and we're going to shift all the bits 2 positions to the right. So I'm going to start here. 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0. We shift A right 13 bits. We shift the whole thing 22 positions to the right. Now our next step is to sum these 3 shifted values. We're doing it modulo 2, or we're XORing the 3 bits together, or as it's easiest to think of, we are simply looking to see if it's odd or even. If there's an odd number of ones, we put a 1. If there's an even number of ones, we put a 0. If there's a 1 that's odd, odd, even, even. So CE20B47E is the result of our summation here. Now we're going to move down and look at EFG. We're going to convert these to binary, 5, 0, 0.
So he's at about 5 minutes of calculating by hand.
Now,
And he's fast at this.
G, an interesting nonlinear way, which is called choosing. So what we do is, if for each bit of E, if it's 0, we circle a bit of G. If it's 1, we circle a bit of F. 0, we circle G. 1, we circle F. And now we write down the circle bits underneath here for our choice. 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0.
No, that was a 1.
So is he computing?
So we're going to shift E by 6, similar to how we did with A. So we're going to start 4, 5, 6 right here. 5.
He's computing one blockchain by hand, right?
Then our final shift is by 25 bits. We're going to sum the 3 bits together, modulo 2, odd or even. So check this, 3, 5, 8, 7, 2, 7, 2B. So that's our summation. Now The next step is to combine all this data to make our first sum. So over here we're going to start with W, which is our input. So this is actually the first place that our input data is actually going into the hash. 02000000. This actually indicates our data block is version 2. Now we take another constant provided by NSA, 4288, 2F98, and we take our value H, which is just the same value we started with unchanged, 5BE0, CD19. We take our choice value computed earlier up here, which was 1F85C98C. And we take our summation of E, which was 3587272B. And now we add these values up.
But he has to add them in
It's just plain
hexadecimal.
arithmetic, so base 16, which makes it a little tricky. 8 is 17, and 12 is 29, and 11 is 40. So that's 32 plus 8, so 16 plus, create 2, 16 plus 16, and 8. 2 minus 11, 12 minus 20, 22. That's 16 plus 6, so we create 16. 150 is 16. Plus 5 is 11, 12 and 3 is 15. So our result is F577ED68 is our first sum. Next, we go up to our compute our new A value. We add 3 things here. We start with the sum we computed earlier, which was CE20B47E. And we take the majority value we calculated from A, B, and C. That's 3A6F, E667. And finally, we take our previous sum, which is F577ED68. And we just add these up in hexadecimal.
You can do all this in your head, right?
Yeah.
So now this is our new A value. So after all this work, we've calculated one of our new values for the output. Now the new B is simply the old A value. Easy. New C is simply the B value. New D is our old C value. Now to compute our new E value, we're going to take D, which is A5, 4, F, 5, 3, A, and we're going to add our previous sum, which was F5, 7.
It's just
That's our new E value, and our new F value is our old E, our new G
so he's executing an algorithm by hand.
here,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
our old G becomes our new H. So we have now completed one round of the SHA-256 hashing.
That was a proof of work to verify the data that was in the red letters, the original letters on that piece of paper.
To verify that they were, what, legitimate, or that
If-
they meant something, or?
If you use the same algorithm on those letters as I do, then we'll get the same answer. We'll get the same hash.
Okay.
So that's how you hash something. And you'll notice he used several key words, one of which was the choosing. The choosing is a type of proof of work where if there were 3 rows of ones and zeros. Based on the top row, if it was a 1, then you chose whichever the second line, I think. If it was a 0, then you chose whatever 1 or 0 was on the third line. That's a type of proof of work that you can't know that result ahead of time. You actually have to do the calculation. You can't guess.
You can't reverse engineer it.
Right. You can't reverse engineer it and then get the original data out of it. Just because I have the result of that, just because I have the hash, the end result of the proof of work, doesn't mean that I can then reverse and say, well, there must have been a choosing, so somewhere in here, but then there's several steps where the choosing and what's the other one? There's the summation, there's the major. These are all key terms that are used to show proof of work.
Okay. Back to my analogy of the cat. You take the cat, it's a string of binary digits, right, in your computer image. Mm-hmm. You interpret that as a single number, as 10001111000. It goes on for 1 million digits. You interpret that as one number, and then you apply an algorithm. I'm going to divide it by 2. I'm going to raise that to the third power. I'm going to multiply that by 4, and then I'm going to take the first 17 digits of the result. Maybe that is like the end result of this hash. It gives you a unique 17-digit key that in some way relates to the cat, but you can't reconstruct a cat picture from that.
Right. You can't reverse engineer the cat picture from a 17-digit string.
Right.
But you can verify that you have the same cat picture with that 17-digit string. That's what a hash represents. It's not a representation of it. It is a proof of work that this thing does exist.
Cool.
Okay, how to use Bitcoin. Okay, so now that we have information about how about keys and sending Bitcoins and ledgers and blockchains and all of that, what do you actually do? Like how do you get one? Well, as I said before, you can go to currency exchanges, not the ones on the corner, but online ones. Like Circle or Coinbase are big ones right now. SFox is another big one. You can tell them who you are, prove who you are. You have to upload, like I said, your driver's license and all this. And then they will allow you to withdraw money or give them a credit card or something to prove that. And then on their ledger, they'll say, okay, they go out into the market, onto the Bitcoin market, and say, okay, 1 Bitcoin is trading at $60,000. I'll sell you one for $61,000 because you're a bit of a risk, and I need to make a little bit of profit. So whatever the open market price is, I'm going to add 2% or something like that onto it, and then they'll sell you a Bitcoin for that amount, or a fraction of a Bitcoin. 0.02 of a Bitcoin. You can buy just 0.02 of a Bitcoin if you want to. There's no minimum, really. And then, once you have it in your account on this coin exchange, let's say Coinbase.com, then I get someone else's Bitcoin address, and I say, send my Bitcoin or part of my Bitcoin to this address. But that address is anonymous, and it might not even be a person. It might be some other website out there who washes the coins such that they've never been used on the darknet before, or to buy drugs before. They'll give you ones in exchange for those.
Can you use it at a non-drug place like Walmart or Amazon or places like that?
So we can wash our coins if we want to, or we can just spend our coins. We can say, here, I have 0.6 Bitcoins. I want to buy this car. If the dealership takes that deal, then they would have to provide their address, their Bitcoin address, where I could send my Bitcoin using my private key, my private spend key, which would be in my wallet, which is on my phone. I would then send it to their address that they gave me, and then I would have to wait. And wait. And wait.
What are you waiting for?
This is why Bitcoins are not used to buy cheeseburgers. On average, it takes 15 minutes to verify a Bitcoin transaction because of what you just saw. It takes trillions of those hashes in order to verify a transaction, because you're trying to reverse out the verification of the data and the coins that you're spending. So you submit the proof of work. You submit the request to the blockchain, and then using the encryption keys that you provide, someone else, a miner out there using probably a video card.
Kids do this?
Kids do this. I did this in my basement. I had a rig in my basement with eight video cards in it, just hashing Bitcoins.
You had a supercomputer in the basement.
I did. I had a supercomputer in my basement, and all it did was run these calculations as fast as it could, and then submit it to the blockchain.
And you got a little profit from that.
Right, got a little bit, because it costs a little bit of Bitcoin to spend Bitcoin. If I'm going to send you Bitcoin, it might cost me 1/2 of 1%. That's the miner's fee. So in order to hash through and add it to verify the work, to add it to the ledger, to upload it, and to do all the verification, costs me a tiny percentage of whatever it is that I'm spending. And that takes about 15 minutes on average to verify a block or a page, because a single transaction is not verified. A block is verified, which is a page. It does it a whole page at a time. So all the transactions for the last minute or so, originally, I think it was even longer, I think it was 15 minutes, are added to the block, and then all that SHA, the SHA-256 proof of work is done on the whole block, proven out, and then it's added to the notebook. It's added to the blockchain. Does that make sense?
Yep, kind of.
Okay. So, because it takes time to do this, it takes about 2 seconds, even with those new credit cards with the chips that take longer to verify, because you have to put it in the machine and you have to wait for it to ding and then take it out. It takes about 3 seconds to verify a credit card transaction. To verify a Bitcoin transaction takes more than one confirmation. So more than one miner out there has to find the solution. Because if I'm a fake miner and I submit a transaction and I prove out my own transaction, or I say, hey, I found the result of this, or if I control a large number of computers, I can fake adding something to the blockchain. And so there has to be multiple confirmations, usually 3 to 5 confirmations.
We have a question online from Lindy. Does it cost the same to do a transaction no matter how much you spend? Or is it always just some fixed percentage of how much you spend?
It is usually a percentage.
Okay.
Yeah, it's usually a percentage.
So that's why, like you said,
Sometimes if we're talking about very large amounts of money, there'll be a cap there where just the miners just don't care. Like that whatever block that amount of money is in is going to get mined because it's very profitable.
okay. So like you said, that's why you don't buy a cheeseburger, because the line at the drive-through would be very long if everybody had to wait 15 minutes to do their transaction.
Right. It would just take a very long time. So what happens if we disagree about what block needs to be added? Or what if Scott maintains a copy of the same blockchain that I do, and he says, you know what, Dave, this is stupid, what you're doing, this calculation right here, this is wrong. This should be different. We have a disagreement about how the future blocks should be added to the chain.
A cosmic ray hit my computer and caused it to make a different result than yours.
Well, that would be fixed
Okay.
in the actual hashing.
Okay.
So memory errors themselves are self-corrected within the hashing algorithms. But if you as a person, if I have a copy of a blockchain and I say, I am the ruler of Bitcoin, and I represent all these programmers in the room who help maintain this network, this peer-to-peer network, but you take 10 of them and say, no, we're going to go do something else. You've created what's called a fork, and that is a forked chain. So you start out with the same copy of the blockchain, but you make a modification to it, and now you have two copies that are slightly different.
You take the notebook and you make your own photocopy of it.
Right. And then each page after that, you use a different color pen, for example. So that something is different about it.
Okay.
You've created a fork. This has happened several times in Bitcoin. People have disagreed about how often blocks should be added to the chain. They've disagreed about how hard or how difficult it should be to verify a transaction. They've disagreed about how fast transactions should take place. They've even disagreed about how if I have your Bitcoin address, Mike, I can look at your account and see how many Bitcoins you have in your account. I can see how wealthy you are, right? So it's created all these other offshoots like Bitcoin Cash. So there's Bitcoin Cash, and those are completely separate items. They have the same Bitcoin name in them, but don't get tripped up because one of them is worth $60,000 and one of them is worth just a few $100s. Because some programmers split off, created their own network, created their own blockchain, and thus their own currency.
Okay.
Now, I indicated before that there's that if I know Mike's or Scott's address or his account number, then I can look and see what how much money he has. Well, various cryptocurrencies, including Monero, introduced the idea of there's a spend key and a view key. So I have two private keys that are just mine. One can be used just to view my account. So if someone needs to verify that I have 10 Monero, just because I've promised them 10 Monero,
It's a different cryptocurrency.
or if I want to verify this is not Bitcoin, this is Monero, or if I want to verify that I have 10 Monero, then I can use my view key to look at the blockchain and say, yep, that's right, that's my account. That's what I've got 10. And if I want to spend it, then I use my separate spend key, submit that along with a bunch of cryptographic information to say, okay, send this to Mike or to Scott or to to somebody else.
Lindy's very interested in this exchange rate idea. She wants to know who sets the percent to change or exchange or spend a Bitcoin. Is that the exchange? Is it the Bitcoin owner?
I was hoping no one was going to ask that question.
That's all right. Well, you don't have a lot of time left.
That's
either,
right.
so-
I got 2 minutes. That's okay. So there are several different exchange rates. One is an exchange like Coinbase might say the going rate for Bitcoin is $60,000. I'm going to charge my users $61,000 per coin. And so there's a sort of fee there.
The exchange itself decides.
Right. The
its own.
exchange itself decides how much it's going to sell its coins for, or how much it can get coins for and then profit from them, and it has to compete with other exchanges.
That sounds to me like going to a cashier and saying, "Can you give me 4 quarters for this dollar?" And they keep one of the quarters because, you know, they had to put effort into it.
We haven't even gotten to the effort part yet.
Okay, well, you don't have.
So then there's the effort. Then there's the miner fee. Some guy out there in his basement like me with a bunch of video cards is out there mining this and has to verify this transaction. And I'm not going to do this for free. I'm not going to just buy these video cards for free and spend the power required to run them for free. So there is a small percentage of a transaction that is that goes to the miner that solved that particular block. And you can vary the rate at which you want your transaction to be verified. For example, in Monero, I can spend a huge amount, let's say a whole percent of my money, to have my transaction jump to the first transaction in the line. Verify me first. Whatever block I'm on, whatever page I'm on, verify that one first, because that's going to be really super profitable. Or I can say, I don't really care. You can verify this tomorrow, and I'll put myself at the back of the line. So blockchain itself, not just Bitcoin, not just money, but blockchain can be used for all sorts of things. Anytime that you need to verify trusted information or verify literally a chain of custody, a blockchain can be used. What if a farmer submitted to Cargill, the big food company, I have a whole field of wheat. I'll have 20,000 bushels of wheat in a week. Great. That information gets added to the blockchain as a sort of credit. He says, I'll have 20,000. Great. Guy who picks up the 20,000 bushels of wheat, adds to the blockchain. I picked up at this time in this place 20,000 bushels of wheat from this guy. We exchanged keys, say on the back of our phones. Got it. We now exchange 20,000 bushels of wheat. Then the guy who transports it goes to the mill and exchanges it there. Says, I gave this mill 20,000 bushels of wheat. Confirmed on the blockchain. Computed, hashed, added, done. The mill says, we turned those 20,000 bushels of wheat into, I don't know how many bags of flour, but a whole lot of bags of flour. And here's their lot numbers. And here's the grocery stores that they went to. And here's the trucks that they were on. And maybe even if you use a customer card, you can say, this customer bought this lot number of flour. Because
the whole ledger
because
of
the
all
whole
the
ledger
transactions. Yeah.
of from seed to purchase is in a blockchain somewhere. So if there's a problem with the seed, or maybe it's been contaminated, you can go back and track everyone who touched it, and you can figure out exactly what happened because it's all literally proved in the blockchain, and it cannot be altered once written. Voting is another potential use. If everyone out there had their own private key for voting, had their own little certificate for voting that was on a card that they put into a machine, and then they voted, and they took the card out and took it with them, then that would verify that one person cast one vote. Well,
Or in Chicago, 10 or 20.
Right, exactly. Or in Cook County, vote early, vote often. But it can still be anonymous because whatever number is encrypted on that key doesn't necessarily have to be in any database linked to Dave, linked to me. I'm just voter 14614. Right? Like I said with the bushels of wheat, any type of supply chain. Think of oil, chemicals, clothing. Almost anything that you need to track between trading partners, blockchain can be used for. All right, last one. Who invented Bitcoin? Does anyone know? Raise your hand if you are at home and you know the answer.
Well, you've got it there on the slide, so everybody knows now.
I'm not raising my hand.
Well, I will. I can read.
Really?
Yeah.
Who invented it?
Satoshi Nakamoto.
How do you know that?
Well, because it's on your slide, and I trust you.
Bitcoin was invented by someone who went by the name Satoshi Nakamoto. In fact, the smallest unit of Bitcoin, which is like 0.00000000001 Bitcoin, I think, is actually called a Satoshi. So you can trade in Satoshis. No one knows who this guy is.
Oh, that was like his superhero name.
Right. There is evidence that this person was in Japan, that this person is male, that this person spoke both Japanese and English, and there's a vague reference to having a birthday around a particular date. That's almost all we know about the original inventor of Bitcoin, the person who started all of this.
Did he invent the blockchain concept?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no. The blockchain concept was actually invented in order to do time date stamping for currency transactions. It was invented in Europe, but it looked very different than the blockchain for money that we use. The idea of proving something cryptographically and then stacking it on top of each other, that was invented several years before, and it was largely forgotten. Satoshi Nakamoto reinvented it in a much better way that allowed people to exchange units of value.
We have another, I'm sorry, we have another question. I know you're running short on time.
Yep.
We have another question online. Esther says, is it true that the computing requirements for cryptocurrency are having a negative environmental impact?
Yes, that's true. The electricity requirements to mine Bitcoin are roughly equivalent to the electricity requirements of Argentina. So that's how much electricity all the video cards and all the computers out there in the world are using to mine the Bitcoin blockchain right now.
That's just Bitcoin, or is that all cryptocurrency?
No, that's just Bitcoin.
Wow. And a whole Argentina worth of electricity.
In fact, electricity is very cheap in Iceland, and so a very rich fellow started a company and built a mine, a literal mine, to mine Bitcoin in Iceland.
A hole in the ground?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it is huge. It is several times the size of this church, and it is full of computers.
They use geothermal electricity there or something. Right?
Yeah, and solar.
Yeah. So it depends on the source of your power. If it's wind power or nuclear power, one of these others that doesn't pollute.
That's true.
Or
If
solar.
it's solar power, then no, I suppose it really doesn't.
But then you get into
But the fact is, we really don't use a lot of that kind of power. You know, we use a lot of natural gas,
Yeah.
a lot of coal here in the U.S.
But then you're taking away from some other uses for that power.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Cool.
And it's only going to increase as time goes on, and as other cryptocurrencies increase in value and people using them. Maybe even I'll by doing this, I'll have contributed to a couple watts of wasted energy. Someone out there will go buy a Bitcoin or something.
Or a Satoshi of a Bitcoin.
Or a Satoshi. So lots of people have tried to find Mr. Nakamoto, and nobody's succeeded yet. And no one has ever come forward and said, it was me. We have emails, we have communications, we have some tweets, but don't know who he is. So,
All right.
thank you very much.
I thought I heard that Tesla was only selling or whatever in Bitcoin.
Yeah, why has the price gone up immensely in the past
So,
few months?
the price has gone up a lot because it's, remember that whole money has to be a store of value thing? Well, it's really difficult to have a unit of account that fluctuates in value so much. And this is another reason why Bitcoin just isn't used as money a lot. It's used as essentially as investment.
You don't want to spend it today if it'll be worth 10% more in a week.
Right, or even more in a week.
Yeah.
I was up day after day. I think it was almost 8% for several days in a row. It was just huge because Elon Musk tweeted about it.
So that means, to me, it means it's not really being used as a currency, right? It's because its value, its store of value function is so uncoupled from economics, the price of goods and services, it's really difficult to use it as a currency. So
Right.
it sort of defeats one of its purposes.
Well, Satoshi Nakamoto specifically said that he wanted a private currency, and so in that way he succeeded, because it is a blind transaction. You don't have to know who I am in order to send me money, and I don't have to know who you are in order to send you. It's not like a bank account where a specific account and a specific routing number. It does have value and it can be exchanged, but it's so volatile that that the speculation outweighs the actual usefulness of it.
As a currency.
As a currency. The individuals who are using it are small. The individuals who are speculating on it are huge. In the 1700s, the tulip bulbs
Yeah, tulip bulb.
prices
Yeah.
went through the roof. There was a tulip bulb bubble. And everyone wanted these tulip bulbs, and tulip bulbs went up hundreds of % in cost.
You think Elon Musk has helped create this current bubble? That's what Mike asked in the audience there.
Yes. He asked, is Tesla taking Bitcoin as payment? I don't know the answer to that, but I know that Elon Musk did tweet about it, and Bitcoin, shot up in price. Not because everyone went out and bought a Tesla with Bitcoin, but because everyone is speculating on it.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem to track with like our dollars, right?
Right.
The dollars in your wallet that you showed, there's no, there would be a global, or at least a national, probably a global catastrophe to make the value of that dollar with regards to a basket of goods change significantly in a course of a week.
Right.
But a Bitcoin,
Fluctuates wildly
yeah.
over
So-
the course of a week.
So the promise of cryptocurrencies is dampened a bit by this speculative function that they're playing.
Right. Speculative function, and then also just the time and the proof of work
Yeah.
that it takes, literally the energy that you have to put in to verify each transaction. There are faster ones out there than Bitcoin. There are ones that are virtually instantaneous. But Bitcoin is the 800-pound gorilla.
Cool. Well, thank you, Dave. Very informative.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Science Sunday. If you have further questions, you can leave them as comments on the YouTube video if you watch it again, or if you think of other questions. And we'll be monitoring the video in the future. We can get back to you. Also, you can send Dave an email, as some of you have done in the past. And then finally, we have some good programs coming up in April. We've got Mark Ailes that will talk to us about the Citizens Climate Lobby. Is that correct, Mike? And the status of some climate change related lobbying and efforts in Washington with some of the changes going on. And then later in the month, we're having a former member of the church and leader of the co-founder of the humanist group here based out of the church will be joining us to talk about, I believe, evolutionary psychology, if I remember correctly. Mike Werner will be here later in April. So a couple of exciting guest speakers coming up. Hope to see you then, virtually at least. And until then, keep warm, keep safe, enjoy spring, and we will talk to you later.